Let's listen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the April County Council meeting, April 9th, 5 p.m. Welcome, and we're going to begin just by approving the minutes from last month's meeting, March 12th. Did all of council receive those via email and have a chance to review those? Any corrections, deletions, changes for the minutes?
I've read the minutes and there's no issues that I saw. No motion that we accept them as presented.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. Ray Black, a motion. Chris Shelton, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, the minutes are approved as sent from the March meeting. I'm going to send out a copy for all the members to sign. Next up is our wonderful auditor, Heather Huff.
Okay, I just have one transfer that I needed to present. I have received the state judicial salary increase, which is Indiana Code 33-38-5-8.01, which dictates how much our sheriff and our chief public defender makes. And typically we do a additional appropriation to cover this amount for the end of the year, which the raise is effective July 1, but I believe that we have enough left in health insurance to cover this amount instead of doing additional. That amount would be $3,700 from county general health insurance to, with $1,850 going to both the sheriff's salary and the chief public defender salary.
Any questions for Heather? I think everybody was notified about that. We know that increase when it comes mid-year, which is always a little challenging for budgets, a little different than our calendar year cycle, but and good to know we've got that those additional funds available and for additional from health insurance line item. All right, technically those are only things listed on our quote cheat sheet that was sent out, so we can go ahead, if it's okay, since it's for discussion here now, we could go ahead and entertain a motion to make this transfer from health insurance to these two line items to support that required salary increase for the rest of the year. We'll go and do that now.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Black second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right. That was easy. Are there anything else for us from the auditor's office?
No, not at this time. Of course, tax bills have went out. We are really busy from that. We are short-staffed in our office, so I am having to ask the public to have some patience with us. We have someone out and she is able to work remotely a few hours a day, and she's typically the person that does the majority of our corrections. So there's a learning curve going. We are learning how to do corrections in the office ourselves and then having her do some remotely. So but everything seems to be working out pretty good.
When is her anticipated return to work?
There's been a delay.
Oh, has
So,
her? Okay, so
There's
we're
gonna
not.
be a longer time.
I had a question. The state did away with the mortgage exemption.
Yes.
So are you getting a lot of calls on that? Because, I mean, it says it if you read the back of the bill, but I don't know if most people know
Yes,
that.
so, even though we have been throughout the year, all last year, people were trying to file for the mortgage deduction. We were doing a lot of explaining there. We are getting some questions, with that, and also with the increases with assessment right now. Some people are now no longer eligible to have the age deduction, so that's another thing we're getting a lot of questions on. But we're just trying our best to go through them all.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Next item on the agenda is Bobby Little, representing the commissioners.
Just wanted to give y'all an update on what the two of us have been looking at. First off is a camera system upgrade at the courthouse. We currently have issues with the system that's there, but what we wanted to do was to get some of the blind corners where we've had issues, and then we go back to study the tape and you can't see it because there's no cameras there. This would be in where you come out of the elevator, clerk's office, where you go around that jag and there's dead spaces there. Also, we have none outside. So if somebody says I tripped, I fell, I broke my nose, you know, we have no recourse. Another thing we wanted to do was to have those, what we call biometrics. They would actually, if we have issues with an individual, we can go back and look at that footage, bring it up. So the next time, say he's coming back to come in again, it flags the security officers and says, hey, individual you had trouble with is coming back again. Plus you could use it for police recognition too. But that's just with the camera systems. I got one more bid coming in on that. We were hoping to use leftover ARP money for that. Another thing, we've been talking with the Scott County Commissioners and the Highway Superintendent about the possibility of combining on paving, because we don't have the funds to do the equipment and they don't. So if we could cost share, like I say, it's just in its infancy, we're just talking, but both sides have seemed extremely in favor of it. So maybe we could get away.
Scott, you said?
Mhm. Maybe we could get away from this $85,000 a mile for paving, and of course our chip and seal, we can make it cheaper also. But like I said, that's just in its infancy, we're just touching base, talking, they were gonna go inform their council to their intent, and that's why I'm here to tell you, you know, if we can save dollars and get our roads paved, why wouldn't we do it? But we're just going through the throes on that. If it ever came to attrition, we'd have to have an interlocal and the two attorneys get together. Anyway, it's something to think about.
Is that first to your knowledge? Is that first to your knowledge as far as those shared resources between counties for?
As far as I know, yeah. But I mean, we have good real rapport with those commissioners, and I have for years, so. Anyway, and then last but not least, we've been exploring the possibility of a shooting range out at the new jail location. And that would be, we have a general idea. It would be the northeast corner of the wooded area. So basically you would hollow out a tunnel. You'd have your trees as buffers and the possibility of a 250-yard range. And I've had it inspected by an agent from USDA and also with soil conservation. So it's not impacting wetlands, bothering anything like that. So we've got the green light to proceed with that. And I also had it walked over by a forestry consultant. And he said selective harvesting of the trees, we could probably cover the cost of the range, or the most part of it. He said we could be looking at plus or minus $30,000 in selective harvest of the timber. But like I say, that I'm sure if we would sell that, that has to go back in the general fund, right? I think anything we
On
sell,
your timber?
well, I know when I sold the house down there at the 315 East Second, the old Wilson house, I'm pretty sure it had to go back in the general budget. And like when we sell scrap or anything at the county highway, it's always the checks made out to Jefferson County Treasurer. So I guess I would just have to have your agreement or approval that we could earmark that money to go back for the range. But that's just something we're working on when the get your intake or.
How many shooting lanes do you think would be? Or do you know that yet? Depending.
We're just in the
Okay, infancy of
the
it.
baby part of it, yeah.
Well, most of us know what our current facility looks like. Quite inadequate.
The worst thing
So
is the
people would
location.
agree with that. Yes, so.
To get it away
residents
from
know
Ivy
that
Tech,
location.
Franks Drive, the transfer station, you know.
Yeah, I know I've talked to officers for years about the hope, Dan Sly, who's no longer with MPD, but, yeah, he's spoken with me about this for
And what
10 years
really,
probably, and how this is so needed.
really sparked this was when I put the cameras in at the animal shelter. I found a bullet hole in the soffits, and it's kind of to the right and up from the range, so. But that Glock or AR, it doesn't know, hey, I'm not supposed to go off in the air, so. But that would make, it would have trees and buffered area, plus the berms. But the thing is, we could use it for city, county, state could use it. And if it was wide enough, we could actually have some mock-up buildings, do, you know, scenarios, something like that. So, anyway, it's just on the table. It's, yes, sir.
I was curious, although we don't want to be specific at this point, but can you give an estimated cost on those cameras? And how
I
that,
really don't want to put that out there because
Right.
the others, if they
Right.
would happen
we
to watch it,
could,
would
we
be,
could find out from you privately?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Well,
Okay. In confidence, we keep it in confidence.
I've never been asked that before, but, you know, because I know once before it was, Amber brought up and I said, no, I won't tell the bid because then it
It's
gives,
out
if
there.
anybody's watching, they have a chance. So
Right.
Mhm.
right now,
So I
Right.
do know that we have $16,893 due to an insurance
insurance check.
check from 2022 when we were hit by lightning that we did not replace the cameras at that point. They were just band-aided, but it is sitting there ready for camera replacement.
And how much is that?
$16,893.
That could be used for
Mhm.
this.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
there
was
is money, some money available.
actually for some replacement of cameras, which we alluded not to because they're outdated and need.
And then the number of cameras because of the dense spaces.
Yes, if you know, if you come out
Yeah.
of
Understood.
the elevator,
Yeah. There's
on the
sometimes
clerks,
dense spaces.
you go like this, and this,
Yeah.
and I know 2 or 3 years ago, an incident happened with an inmate, and there was a lot of question about it, but no footage to back up that, yes, he did what was correct.
Yeah,
And like I said, there's nothing on Jefferson, on Main Street,
Right.
or,
I think it's a great idea. I'm just,
yeah,
would you guess?
I'm
40
not,
cameras?
I'm not gonna, oh, cameras?
Yeah, I know.
I think we added out of memory 12 or 13, so probably in that
A
neighborhood.
total of about 40.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I was
Something in
just
that
trying.
neighborhood.
Thank you.
And timing for the two, topics here that you've mentioned, not the shared paving, possible, collaboration with Scott County, but specifically the cameras in the shooting range. Would this council maybe expect, you think additional bids will be back for the cameras where we may have
I want,
a bid possibly in May to be able to move forward with that?
I'm only waiting on one, so yes, I will have those.
And then shooting range, obviously, that's not a project that happens overnight, but knowing already that some preliminary work is being done, what kind of timeline do you think? Is that something you would be hopeful that by the end of the year that we can,
On,
for the shooting range?
weather permitting, I could see, you know, well, it couldn't be done the end of the year.
That'd be pretty easy.
And then anything we want to do, like lighting or anything like that, could be point down the
Parking,
road.
some parking would be needed.
Well, thought process was maybe to come around the outside of the fence. So then you don't have to go inside the restricted areas or anything like that, except for when law enforcement's using it, they would, you know, no problem access to them.
Who else would use it other than law enforcement?
Right at this point in time, it would probably just be law enforcement or, you know, probation or anybody that's qualified or anything like that.
So it's a secured area that it's in. So it's not open to the public.
Not at this point in time. I mean, We're just in the infancy of it, so
So would you plan for it since you're in planning?
I wouldn't say that would be a
I would
possibility.
for it.
What about noise in the jail right there, and the inmates in there? Wouldn't that be quite loud? What if you got,
I doubt if they would even hear
aren't you right next to it on the east side?
it. It's probably 100 yards from
Are
it.
you shooting from where to here?
It would be up in here. Your inmates are over in this
So where are you
area,
shooting from, if I can understand?
or south to north.
Oh, okay, so you'd be on the back side of here where the woods is now, and then shooting to the north there, and that's your 250 yards
Roughly,
within there?
I mean,
That you could.
that would still leave us quite a buffer zone on the north side.
Okay, and there's no houses there, so you don't think that noise is gonna be a factor in the jail?
Nope,
Well, having experience, I know that gun range noise kind of goes, people at Walmart complain about the existing range over
yeah,
there.
but you don't have any trees, you have nothing but wide open area, there's no block to it.
So what about the prisoners? Are they outside? Do they have open air area, or that's gonna be separate from here? That would be backside of the range. I'm just wondering
The
about.
Open air is on the west side. Towards the railroad tracks.
So that noise will carry when they're outside.
Yeah, they'll carry some, but if you're inside, I don't think noise will be an issue.
Okay, well, you might just wanna just look into that before you go into building this to see about decibel ratings and see where that's at. You may get somebody in there with PTSD, someone that's unstable, that could just be a trigger. It's just something to consider.
And right now, the noise where it is now is by a neighborhood, by shops,
Yeah.
by Ivy Tech, by the animal shelters. So this obviously is much more ideal as far as noise away from the general population.
And safer.
And was this didn't the Indiana Department of Corrections come in and offer to develop this range when we were first buying this parcel and developing it for the jail?
No,
Okay,
It was brought up that it might be an option, but it's nothing that materialized.
What's that?
I said, I thought it was brought up as it could be an option, but it was nothing that materialized.
so that would be something to pursue for cost sharing. It's just something else to look at, because it's gonna take money to maintain it and to clean it and all
Yeah.
that. Are you gonna present a plan with all of this to the council?
That's if I get their approval to do it. There's nothing engraved in stone, no kind of design or
So what is the green light that you're talking about?
on the wetlands.
Only on the wetlands?
Mhm.
Okay. So who gives the estimate, other than you said $30,000 in timber?
The forester gave that. That's just an estimate.
Is that how much it's gonna cost to develop the range?
no, and it's, actually, he presented in his, notes here that it's just in the infancy stage, and it's an idea that he has. And he had told Heather that he's going to bring back to the council at a later date, more information to us about it, but he wanted to inform the council where the commissioners are going with the idea of that range.
Yeah, it would be a design. It wouldn't be just go out there with a
Well,
dozer.
that was a concern because of the way that it was read. So you will come back with, you're here for their blessings and no money
I'm
today.
basically to get their approval that money can be earmarked if we go that route for that.
What
range,
money?
that- From the trees, from the timber.
Okay, so only on the timber that you're talking about now?
Mhm.
And then you don't have an
Well, if it-
estimate for the rest of the range, how much it's going to cost?
If it's absorbent amount, it probably won't happen.
So why aren't we doing a plan first and then knowing that you've got $30,000?
Well, in my opinion, why spend the time planning it if you don't have the blessing from the council? Put all that time and effort in planning as far as getting everything in line and getting contractors and all that information. Get the blessing from the council, let them know that you have this idea, and then go forward with it and investigate and then bring it back to the council.
But you've already expended all that, just like the jail ended up costing how much more money from what it was estimated. That's why we have estimates. So I know how much it costs to develop a range. I don't know how wide this is gonna be. I'm just looking for preliminary plans here before you go.
There are no
more.
preliminary plans. There will be plans going forward. And then once we do, he is, and the commissioners will find appropriate money, if there's money to be had, and if there's not, I'm sure they will not come to the council because he knows that's not in the budget.
So the only thing you're doing right now is preliminary, you're funding him for preliminary.
Not funding anything.
Not funding anything, we have an
You're just
appropriate, we
giving
have
him
a
the blessing
transfer, we have an
Basically,
approved.
just an idea.
Okay.
Man, we've struggled a little bit with communication in the past, so both commissioners and councils are trying our best to, keep communication lines open. And obviously because of, policies in place and knowing that we don't want taxpayers to think that we're being sneaky and talking about ideas, he's simply in a public meeting bringing this idea to us to say, we know law enforcement in the area has been begging for new range for years. We have an idea and a space now we could put it. We want to keep you in the loop because we're about to go explore this and we want to see what it would take if the area can be used for that, how much, it possibly could cost, how much space is needed, what local law enforcement agencies want to see in a new range, since once we have, what we have now is inadequate. I think he's trying, my opinion is that he's trying to keep us in the loop of work that they're about to do to see if this is, a possibility and viable for Jefferson County.
Well, and it shows up on an agenda, so the public knows before the council even knows what's going on. So where's the transparency on that as far as not having two commissioners at a public meeting, but not communicating between the commissioners and the council? It's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
By law, we cannot do that.
Right.
I
and he-
already, I
he
didn't
didn't
talk
hide
about
a-
two
He
people
didn't
coming
hide a
together.
policy or a plan or proposal, or here's the building specs from us. He's coming to us today to say, here's an idea we're exploring.
So what
And
I'm
obviously, he
saying.
needed to put that on the agenda.
Because
And
we
they-
can't
and so the
meet behind
public
closed
knows
doors.
before you know. So I can say, I'm not saying all the commissioners come in and say, this is what we're doing. There has to be a level of transparency between the commissioners and the council, because it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. If I call my council,
No,
that's
they
what
might
he's
not
done.
know.
That's
what's
what he's
happening.
doing right
That's
If
now.
I'd have done that, I went and spent several $1,000s to have it designed. And then came to them, okay, I'm not doing that. This is just an idea. Like I said, nothing engraved in stone. It's just an idea. I wanted their support, their blessing before we even pursue what it's gonna cost.
So when you come back, you'll come back with your plans and the cost estimates for those.
I intend to, yeah.
I would think that that would be the next step.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it gonna cost you to do all that in the meantime?
I'm sure design costs, yes.
Okay. Now,
But
my
there would
next
have been no
question.
point in spending that money
Right.
if the council.
Well, I'm
says
just
we
asking,
don't-
for you to get all that information, is it gonna cost you money to do that information before you come back and say, these are the plans, this is what it's gonna cost, but it cost me this much to get that?
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Mhm. You'll have to have a design, I mean, to know
Yeah.
what it's going to cost to
So,
put the thing
You'll
in.
I
come
mean,
back
has
with
that
those
been okay?
estimates.
My next question would be is, aren't you supposed to be putting the shelter out there too? So isn't that gonna be the same problem again?
I can comment on that. I attended the RDA meeting last week, and I think the commissioners have a great idea. I don't know if it's something that the RDA, the Regional Development Association, will even fund. But there is grant money that the commissioners are pursuing to, for
Right, but
projects.
that's not what my question is. My
Right.
question is,
You're
you're
talking
putting
about-
the shelter and the gun range right next to each other.
Well, if you'll let me explain, that piece of property that the county purchased is a large piece of property. And at the RDA meeting, the commissioners had, shown a map where the animal shelter would be located if they so granted the funds. We don't know if that's even gonna come to fruition, but if it does, it would be something that the commissioners would say, hey, this is something that we know that's out there. We know, we've been talking about, there's a building fund for the animal shelter, and it's nowhere near the amount that we need to build a new animal shelter for our animals here in Jefferson County. But if that would come to them, that the RDA awards them grant money, or not grant money, but awards them money to apply to that proposal, then they would come to the board and say, hey, we've got this money, let's move forward with that idea.
So that's the only way a shelter would be built? So. again,
Unless
they're the
people
redheaded
donate, if you'll let me finish, unless money would be donated to the animal shelter, because there is a special fund that's out there that people
Yes.
donate to.
And you can designate your, donations to the building fund and it would go there. And I know that fund really has not grown in the last couple of years. People have been, going towards operation or different things like that instead of the actual building fund.
I know I'm sorry, I'm Tricia. I
Oh,
know
yeah, you're sitting back there, you can chime in.
But I know I can get more money towards that, but what they want is the plan. They want to know, we have this land, we have this, before I go asking them to give me more money for that building fund that's been being asked since 2013, you know,
And
so.
we have. a
And
set
the
of plans
commissioners are
for it.
really working hard. I mean, they had a great presentation. I don't know if it'll meet the guidelines for the RDA, but,
I've got my fingers
yeah, you
crossed.
have your fingers crossed. I think we all
It's
do.
actually a long time since 2013 to be sitting waiting for a shelter that's fallen apart.
It is.
But I think it's clear that there'd be no decision-making tonight, right? Bob?
Well,
Right, right, there's no decision-making
Right.
tonight.
Well, I just keep seeing the redheaded stepchild getting pushed aside, especially, we're talking all the way back to 2013 now.
Well,
And
that-
it's still gonna get pushed because nobody's adding in money to this fund for the shelter. And if that's the way it's gonna get built, it's never gonna get built unless
Yeah.
somebody rich comes in and says, I'll buy you a shelter.
Mhm. So, I mean, that is something that the director or of the animal shelter could set up, like a marketing campaign, and Heather's really been helpful with ideas to come up to promote, you know, different ways of raising money. It's just, we have that building fund out there, it's just not growing a lot, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of wiggle room when it comes to budget time to cut from one department to this department. And we really want to, and we've tried to be creative and
Right.
covering payroll and
But
other
you-
expenses. So I'm not making excuses, it's just, it just hasn't been growing, and unfortunately, people
We
are.
look at kind of like the needs that need to happen
Mhm,
and the wants.
right,
So
that's perfect
sometimes the
budgeting.
wants tend to grow a little bit higher than the needs sometimes, and, you know, that poor building's falling apart, we all know that. There's
Correct.
cracks, you could see through the walls
Mhm.
to the outside,
Mhm,
you know, you can patch them, but they're gonna open up again.
right,
I think the first
You know?
step in all of that is we have to get a new interlocal agreement with everyone.
I
for-
would think that would be kind of high on the priority.
mhm.
You know, and
I've been
also,
mentioned several times.
An interlocal's not gonna build a new building.
No,
It's
that is
keep
true.
what we've got going, but we
Um,
do have a set of plans
Mhm.
for a new structure, which the RDA wanted to see plans. They wanted to know you had ground. We have both of those, so
Mhm.
hopefully that may be the one thing we come with. And if it is, that's wonderful.
And do those plans include the shooting range on that you submitted to the RDA?
No,
No.
You can
not a
only
separate motion.
propose, you can only propose your
What I'm
budget.
saying is that I'm not asking for money. I'm talking about the plans, that the shooting range is there and you're putting an animal shelter on the same 50 acres. Is that like, where is it?
You've got it within a few hundred yards right now.
Yeah, I'm within a few hundred
You-
yards.
It's not ideal. That's why you're
Never
moving,
said-
that's why you're moving the range.
This would.
I'm
be
just-
for the-
I'm asking
this
a
would be
And that's
for
why I
the
was asking.
construction.
Master
Yeah.
plan, master plan.
that's why I'm asking, you know you're too close now. But what is the safe buffer zone? And you are moving it now, so what is that safe buffer zone between the jail, the gun range, and the shelter?
They're not shooting towards us.
You know
doesn't
what?
matter.
They're not shooting really towards you that way either.
They are.
But they're still-
We're technically not to public comment yet, and while I do appreciate the comments, to stay on task and agenda, and especially if the council has any additional questions for Mr. Little. Gary,
yes, I haven't.
what,
and-
question
I
do you have?
don't mean to switch gears, but I'm particularly excited about the Scott County joint thing.
Mhm.
I was wondering if there's a chance, I mean, I would volunteer to meet with the Scott County County Council or the Scott County Commissioners on this. I think that's a really good idea to pursue, so we can get some more roads. I know there's a lot of roads around the county, as you all know, and Superintendent Phillips knows. We want to get to if we had the funds, and I really feel like I'd be willing to meet with them and find out more. Is that a possibility?
We, like I said, we've just had our first little, across the table, here's what we'd like to do, can we make it work? And they were very favorable, as was ours, so, I mean, both superintendents, and they worked together before and on, but our thought was like, if we have the equipment, okay, Scott County, you got it in June. We'll be doing our culverts, getting ready for ours. So then they may say, hey, we had good weather, we're a week ahead, come get it. Just,
Okay.
I don't see it not working, and
Yeah, I just like to be a part of it.
Good. Any other questions from the council?
I was just curious, we know approximately, I know you threw out a number for per mile current pavement when we're contracting somebody. Do we have a rough idea of what that would save us doing it or
we're not.
not there yet?
We're not there. I mean, we had even thought, okay, pursuing used equipment, like it maybe a year or two old, but all of us agreed, we're not gonna buy something you gotta put a tourniquet on the whole time.
Right.
We've got away from that. We've got good equipment now, so we're not down 2 or 3 days a week trying to fight it. But new might be out of the question. We may have to go for use, but it's just, I thought it was a good thought, so.
Yeah, I was just curious what percentage that would save us, just materials and asphalt, us buying the asphalt, putting it down ourselves and saving the labor.
Yeah,
costs.
we wouldn't have to buy anything but the hot mix, so, yeah. But I will keep you posted and updated.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Great. All right, and we technically have already gotten through, our very short list, just one transfer. So technically we are at the public comment, so back to any public, community members that are here, what additional questions do you
Don't get
have?
me
for
wrong, I think-
commissioners? Council?
The gun range needs to happen,
Mhm.
but the shelter also needs to happen, but what is the buffer zone of the distance between that shooting range with the jail and the shelter and any surrounding housing, or is there housing, back behind where that shooting range is gonna be? Is that buildable land, or is that private land, or is that?
Or family farm zones where they're gonna be shooting.
I'm just asking,
I
but
think good
I mean-
comments. I think these would be things that the,
There is.
decision makers, and research will be looking at. I look back that way as well, so, yeah, I think it's great to hear.
because I'm up on Miles Ridge, so I hear the gunshots all the time, which, I mean, I don't have a bullet come flying at me like she does, but I mean, I guess it could, depending, but I think the shelter is high, I should be high on the list. You've all said before that how much more money are you gonna throw into the shelter before you guys actually do something about a shelter?
So a big takeaway, obviously, is that the discussion is now farther beyond than just discussion. Yeah, the fact that it's whether proposed projects for RDA, and that's exciting versus just talking about it yet another year, another year.
And the acreage for that would be to the north and the west. That is actual soybean field right now, just this side of the railroad tracks. That would be the only logical place to put the shelter.
Right.
Speaking of the shelter, we have an opportunity to purchase a van, and we have the money in the 4103 account. And I just wanted, I guess, to bring it to y'all's attention that I'm gonna be using some of that money to hopefully here soon purchase a new van for the shelter. Okay.
We would have to do an additional appropriation next month, but, the money is there and is available from donations.
I know you had spoke to the commissioners about that last week, so did you end up finding a couple suitable
I
vans?
did, and I will be proposing it to them next meeting.
Good.
For approval.
We'll get to hear more about that, yeah.
Good.
Obviously,
Bring
there's
more
more
opportunities for us.
Probably be on our docket then for May.
Yes, it will be on.
Staffing issues all right?
Yeah. Part-timers, we're rotating through them. It's hard to keep, for a long time. It's just not enough room to grow. But we're doing great, I think, in that aspect of the employees. All right, I just wanted to let that know.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else from council?
One thing, sorry, pardon me, Bonnie, I can't remember, and I'd have to refer back to my notes. That RDA, next communication, was that at funding?
That would be what.
Yeah,
sorry.
oh, you're behind there. Hey.
That would be what the RDA, the RDA finds out from the state,
Okay,
how much they're gonna give to each
I
regional
can't
development.
remember, how far out did they think that was? It was like 6 months or so, isn't it? Over the summer,
No, they find out in May,
in May,
how
okay,
much the state's
Okay.
gonna give to each region, and then there's a shorter, well, a window there where projects will submit project proposals. And I think that window is, yeah, I think it's a couple months. So
all right.
we're gonna start preparing those things to submit rather than waiting until we find out.
Right. All right. No further discussion. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Pam,
Second that.
second by Dwayne. We'll see everybody in May.